What are you?
I am the hope of the universe. I am the answer to all living things that cry out for peace.
ドクターそれから先の1年間というものはなかなかボツになるばっかりだったんですね。
そうです。書いても書いてもという。僕自身は全然しんどくなかったですけど。
暮らしはどうしてらっしゃるその間。
その間ですか？いや失業の身ですからねほとんど。
When Dragon Ball started in 1984, Toriyama didn't plan a global franchise. He planned 1 year, one story. A goofy kung fu road trip about a kid named Goku collecting magical orbs that grant him one wish. The manga blew up almost overnight. Kids loved Goku's innocence, slapstick humor, and the weird blend of Journey to the West mythology and Bruce Lee-style martial arts. So the magazine pushed. Toriyama wasn't a long-term strategist. He liked to improvise. He once said, and I quote, "I like to surprise myself. I don't really know what's going to happen until I draw it." That's why Dragon Ball changes shape so many times. From treasure hunt comedy to tournament arcs to intergalactic sci-fi war, every twist was Toriyama testing himself. It was improvisation under fire, and that's exactly why it felt alive. At the same time, it's also why he burned out so often. He wasn't writing with a corporate playbook. He was literally making it week by week. And this is where things get interesting, because his editor, Kazuhiko Torishima, had been with him since Dr. Slump, which is another comedy manga about robots and farts. Thank God that Toriyama had such an excellent editor like Torishima. Actually, when Toriyama told him that he wanted to go age Goku up, Torishima hated it. He told him flat out, "The readers won't like it. You'll ruin the series."
Wow! Now do you recognize me? Who else but me has hair like this?
It's unbelievable! Who would have thought Goku could grow up to be so tall and handsome? Just wait! I'm sure Yamcha will look even better!
Thank God that Toriyama stuck to his guns, because he needed Goku older. He literally said, and I quote, "I wanted to draw him older because I found it difficult to draw child characters in action scenes." Again, it was his decision against editorial advice. In contrast to this, Toriyama even threatened to end the franchise if the editors did not comply and let him make these changes. The rest is history, right? That decision changed everything, because suddenly Dragon Ball wasn't a kid's manga anymore. It was about growth, responsibility, and legacy. When Goku grew up, and so did the readers, and that risky move that one editors actually fought against turned Dragon Ball into a generational myth. If Toriyama didn't have a spine, Dragon Ball would have ended as a cute gag comic, not such a staple in the shonen industry the way it has become. Before we move any further, let's clear something up, because when people hear gag manga, they think it's mindless comedy. A gag manga is a fast-paced, joke-driven, often with exaggerated art, but that doesn't mean it can't carry weight. Series like Gintama, One Piece, even early Naruto borrow from the same tradition, where they use comedy to break tension, to make you care about the characters before the stakes get real. Toriyama was the king of that balance, in my opinion. It wasn't just pure comedy, it had substance. And I think in the end of the day, it's one of those things, balancing act, where you can't have comedy without substance, and substance without comedy is just boring. Dragon Ball started as just a gag manga. I feel like that's such a disservice, and that's missing the entire point. In Japan, that's not an insult. It's just an art form. And Toriyama perfected it. And going back to, in fact, the very first episode of Dragon Ball, there's a little known character called Grandpa Gohan. In case you didn't know, Gohan was actually named after Goku's adopted grandfather, and there's a whole emotional anchor to early Dragon Ball. Canonically, Gohan actually died on the night that Goku transformed into a great ape. Toriyama actually later confirmed this is supplemental material. Goku doesn't remember it. He only knows that his grandfather just vanished, and he's been smiling through the guilt ever since. It's dark, it's tragic, and it's completely embedded in what the West calls a comedy manga, because Toriyama never separated joy from sorrow. He made tragedy look playful. Even from the very beginning, before Saiyans, before Frieza, before the Super Saiyan anything, Toriyama was already proving that a gag manga could carry tragedy, politics, and heart. Now, you can't talk about Dragon Ball without addressing its dark side, right? For every kid inspired to train martial arts, there's a parent who thought it was too violent or too weird. As for a couple examples, let's talk about Mr. Popo's design. This is an interesting character depiction. Mr. Popo's design was criticized for racist imagery, black skin, red lips, turbans, and Western versions recolored him with purple to avoid backlash. Another instance is where Master Roshi's sexual humor often aimed at teenage girls, which is a majority of the women in the franchise, which sparked real world bans. An instance of this is Toys R Us pulling the manga in 1999, a Maryland school district banned it in 2009, and in Argentina, which is actually surprisingly recent, back in 2021, Dragon Ball Super was temporarily banned for a Roshi scene accused of normalizing sexual abuse. Now, Western edits scrubbed blood, nudity, and even renamed Hell to HFIL. Meanwhile, Toei Animation was accused of overlooking animators and mass copyright striking fan content across YouTube. Now, with all of this controversy, you must be thinking, what is Libra Knight trying to say with all of this? Are we trying to cancel Akira Toriyama? I don't think so. I think a lot of these controversies were a result of cultural differences, for one. In case you can't tell, there's still a lot of really fucked up animes out there, majority of it catering to what is popular demand at the time, right? Why did we have those creepy Bulma scenes? Why did we have so many characters with like pervy old men? It's a gag. Media is an art, and it's what you make of it. From whatever you want to make out of this comment, this again ties down to difference of how much you want to separate art from artists. And then obviously when one small piece of media blew up such stardom, Akira Toriyama never planned for something to have this much of a drastic impact. Now that's the duality of being a mangaka in Japan, where you're both an artist and an employee. His work routine was brutal, barely sleeping, delivering 15 to 20 pages per week, pencils, ink, storyboards, all the cover art by himself. He wasn't lazy, he was just burnt out, and after years of that, Super came along, and it was a project built under corporate machinery. This time, Toriyama wasn't cooking the meal, he was just sending the recipe. And this brings us to Toyotaru. Who is Toyotaru, you might ask? He's not an editor. He's the artist who took over the Dragon Ball Super manga, and he's a massive fan who used to draw Dragon Ball AF Online before being handpicked by Toriyama himself. Toriyama wrote the outline, here's the villain, here's the theme, here's what it ends. Toyotaru would draw the dialogue, the panels, and design the pacing. And this was not a collaboration. In the end of the day, it was just a delegation of work. So yeah, if Super feels formulaic, it's because it's just Dragon Ball Z on repeat. It was literally made by a fan. And that's also because Toriyama wasn't at the grill, bro. He gave the instructions and he trusted Toyotaru to make it work and give the people what they want. And to be fair, he did do his best. Again, it's not the same soul. It's not his creation. Just a carbon copy. Now here's where things come full circle, because for Dragon Ball Daima, Toriyama actually sent out a letter to the fans and he wrote, I came up with the story and setting as well as a lot of the designs. I'm actually putting a lot more into this than usual. At first glance, it sounds polite. If you know like real traditional Japanese people, they don't just say these kind of statements. They're very particular about the choices, the words they're using, especially if it's a celebrity of this stature. You're not going to be like, oh shit, he's putting in more work than usual. Like, that's almost like nothing. But when a man who's been known for his detachment suddenly says, I'm more involved than usual, that's a quiet rebellion. That's not just an update. It's a statement. That's why Daima matters, man. That's why I keep fighting with you guys in the comments, because Daima is significant. Because for all the noise, the spin-offs, the endless merchandising, and the lawsuits, the studio fights, This feels personal because it feels like Toriyama wanted one last chance to hold the pen. He's been pulled between art and industry his entire career, from a man who wanted to end a story within a year to a legend who couldn't stop his creation even if he tried. Now let's talk about the broader influence of Dragon Ball beyond just Akira Toriyama. You can trace every punch, every rivalry, every I'll surpass you moment back to Goku and Vegeta. Every training montage, every power up scream, every rival turned friend, like all of it. One Piece inherited that sense of adventure. Naruto borrowed that spirit of mentorship and rivalry. My Hero Academia took the structure of legacy, of passing the torch. And even Demon Slayer carries Toriyama's pacing, with the humor followed by heartbreak, small talk before death. And the thing is, it wasn't just Japan. For example, in Latin America, Mexico, they broadcast Goku's fights in public squares like it's some kind of a FIFA World Tournament or something. In France, it becomes Dragon Ball Z. Philippines, in India, in Egypt, it crossed language barriers because it was emotion first, logic second. You can feel the tension in each fight, where orange shirt man covered in blood, he's on the floor, he's dying, what the heck is happening? And there's electric rock music in the background, and I'm thinking, this is the fucking vibe, bro. And that's what Toriyama understood, right? People don't remember complexity, they remember emotion. So even with its flaws, the rushed pacing, the filler, the censorship, and the inconsistencies, it didn't matter because the core ideas survived every translation. Get stronger, fall, get back up, and try again. That's the Zenkai boost. I think that's such a wonderful philosophy to carry in a shonen, especially in this generation. Everyone has this sort of pessimistic, nihilistic perception of the world with all the crazy shit see on the internet on a daily basis. A lot of people are drawn into fantasy shows and like Marvel movies where it's about the superhero getting dogged on, but then still choosing to get up to fight one more day. It's a story of triumph, even when odds are against you. I would call Super a fan fiction. You can call Daima nostalgia. But for me, I think this was Toriyama's last message, where just a quiet, stubborn, creative man saying just one last time, if I can't draw him right, I can't make him fight right. But in the end of the day, just like any artistic medium, it's what you take from it. And I think that's how I'd like to end my video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. I cannot believe that the last video actually got that many views. YouTube actually pushed me for once. That is awesome. If you made it this far into the video, appreciate you. I don't know why you're still watching, but keep watching it, man. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys in the comments.